listening to Skeptoid. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Oh, not again, Richard.
No,
this is the 80th episode you've played. I've heard, okay, he doesn't like Eric von Daniken. I get it. Ugh.
Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Look, there's a lot of things people are into. A lot of people are into gardening. I'm huge on gardening, particularly when it's a beer garden. We're here in the beer garden of the Dan O'Connell, named after, I think, a Dan Brown book. Or something like that. But it's a very Dan O'Connell, very famous skeptic. He was the first guy that said, "Don't give me a beer, I'll take that vodka straight," I believe.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone.
He looks skeptical.
I can't even do it. Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 582 for the 8th of December 2019. Richard Saunders here with you from Melbourne, Victoria. I'm with Maynard and we're here for Skepticon 2019 and the crowd go wild.
Yeah, those four people are living the life.
Rowdy bastards. Now, we're here for a big weekend of skepticism. Coming up on this week's show, Maynard, for the people who are interested, Skeptical Road Trip. You and I hit the road with the bent spoon. We drive down from Sydney to Melbourne and see sights along the way.
Yes, it's the Skeptical Mystery Mobile, because no one knows who we are.
No, they don't know who we are. After then, at You're On Deck with interviews, you interview mentalist Mark Edward, Susan Gerbeck from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, a wonderful bloke, Les Oates, who's a supporter of the show, who invited us to his restaurant. More about that coming up. Yeah, and Jane Novella.
It's a weird thing, because you meet people who are fans of the show, but rarely it's someone that says, "Hey, come around and hang out." You don't get very often.
Yeah, we dined ourselves to oblivion. It was so nice. A great dining experience. More about that coming up. Yes, and you talk to Jane Novella too. Then we have Tim Mendham talking about geoengineering, which should be interesting. And we wrap up the show with the announcements of the winners and losers from this year's awards.
Geoengineering, that was when George Arab fixed his fridge?
Yes, that's it. You've got that right.
I heard that episode. That was fantastic. So that's just a great show for you. Listen to all that stuff. You're going to have all this is fresh. It's less than 24 hours old. No stale content on the show today.
Never any stale content on the show. Well, Maynard, I think it's time for you and I to run around the corner, head in and see if there's a drink for us. And while we do that, we hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
We are on the mighty road here with Richard Saunders driving the Demon Mobile that is the Skeptical Mobile. It's possibly the smallest car that's ever been on any expressway in Australia. I've currently got my knee in Richard's ear. Is it comfortable to drive, Richard? Exactly. It's fantastic, Richard's saying. Now, we've been to all the major sightseeing that could possibly be done between Sydney and Melbourne. We've gone to Costco. Yeah. We dropped into the wine department there, but they were only selling 5 or 6 litre cans. They're very strange at Costco. And then we moved through. We looked for a large Toblerone, but unfortunately it didn't fit in the car. They do sell big stuff at Costco. And we've just been through Goulburn, which was an amazing place. They have the big merino there, and the thing to do is to stand behind it and get your photos taken with the hoo-ha of the sheep in the back visible. But since it was for overseas visitors, we took a photo in the front as well. Richard, how are you explaining your driving experience? Oh, hang on a minute, we're just going past some police.
There we are.
Now, there's new laws coming into action in New South Wales, Australia, fairly shortly, where you can be secretly filmed while driving without your notice, basically, and there's no warning signs or anything. You're just going to be driving around, and you'll be filmed, and they'll go, "Oh, you're using a mobile phone," which is illegal. But I'm just wondering, where do they get off secretly filming people, Richard? I've been asked to be secretly filmed for years, and they've never done it, and now they want to do it in my car. It wasn't in my car. I wanted to be filmed.
I think we're all being secretly filmed for years, Maynard. I mean, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but you never know. Anyway, yeah, we're driving down from Sydney to Melbourne for the Australian Skeptics National Convention, Skepticon, and in the car, in the Skeptic Zone mobile, we have the bent spoon. Now, the bent spoon is growing bigger and bigger every year, and every few years we have to put another layer of wood on it to put all the little plaques on it. And it's getting a bit of a problem because it's not that easy to fly down anywhere because it's so big. So we're driving down with the bent spoon.
And it's really an irksome sort of thing because there's no handle on the base of the award, and if you pick it up by the bent spoon promptly breaks, and no one's ever bothered to fix that because it really only comes out once a year at conferences, and then inevitably someone tries to pick it up by the spoon, and what happens, Richard?
It breaks.
Everyone goes, oh no!
It should be called the Broken Spoon Award. But no, we're looking forward to awarding the bent spoon again this year, of course. But so we photographed the bent spoon in Sydney when we were setting off on our trip. Then we photographed the bent spoon outside Costco, and now we've just photographed the bent spoon with the giant merino sheep.
I'm really worried about going into Victoria too, because once we cross the border of New South Wales and Victoria, if they stop and search, I've got Star Trek pyjamas, and I think Star Trek pyjamas are contraband in the state of Victoria.
Maybe a bent spoon. Could you imagine? Hello, sir. What's this? A bent spoon?
And a pair of Star Trek pyjamas. Oh, yeah, you want the Skeptic Guide of the Universe, people. And I said, yes, my name is Cara Santa Maria.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, they will. We look the same, and you don't usually see both of us in the same photo.
Now, the next stop in about, let's look at our GPS here, right here. Our next stop is the dog on the tucker box. Now, you can't get much more Australian than that.
In fact, you can't get much more Australian than someone nicked the dog on the tucker box. In fact, I suspect that when we get there won't be a dog or a tucker box, because I seem to remember reading a few months ago that someone had, spirited it away, and not in a, Japanese really interesting movie kind of way either. It's gone. So we're hoping to leave a tucker box there, or if possible, get a photo of the bent spoon on the tucker box. But really, you've got to look at your country, and the best thing you can come up with is a canine and a source of storing food as an icon, really.
It's, for those of you who don't know, it's a statue of a Kelpie dog, I guess, sitting on a food box. I kid you not.
Yep. So, yeah, that's right. It's a statue of a lunch pail and a dog. Oh, I couldn't be more excited about this. That's everything in my life has led to this moment.
You're listening to Skeptoid. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Oh, not again, Richard.
No,
this is the 80th episode you've played. I've heard, okay, he doesn't like Eric von Daniken. I get it.
Well, now we've been on the road for, 6 or 7 hours. We're in Victoria, where we're not far out from our destination, but enough, Skeptoid, Maynard, enough.
Look, I know why you call it the bent spoon, because by the end of it, you're so hungry, you'll bend a spoon while you're trying to eat something. I could kill a can of baked beans about now. Look, we've seen a submarine that surfaced at Holbrook, named after the Worcestershire sauce. It's great.
Yeah, we stopped at Holbrook, which is somewhere between Sydney and Melbourne, where they have a submarine sitting on the grass there, and you can have your photograph taken with a submarine. It's quite something.
And you let me drive the Skeptic Mobile, which isn't really as exciting as anything on Scooby-Doo, but it was fun.
Well, I'm glad you did, because while you were driving the Skeptic Mobile, I was in contact with the head office in Sydney, because we're coordinating media for Susan Gerbeck and Mark Edward at the moment. So it's all sort of happening on the fly, on the road, as it were. Now,
I'm looking forward to doing lots of interviews that you're going to hear on the Skeptic Zone coming up. I've got to figure out what Cara Santa Maria is talking about, because I read her topic, and basically I don't understand any of the words in the sentence except for the word for, which I think is a number, because it's got a U in it. But I'm going to ask her about that. I'm going to be talking to people about all sorts of things, because there's spooky stuff. We'll be talking to Susan Gerbeck, of course, and we'll be talking about lots of stuff. But just as long as you do not play any more, maybe one more episode. 19 episodes in a row is as much as I can take. And it's not about Eric von Daniken again, is it?
I tell you what, we'll listen to Skeptoid episode number 1 about New Age energy. We've been driving through country Australia for the last hours and hours and hours. Not too much traffic, lots of big rigs on the road, of course, and Melbourne's in our sights.
And Indigo Creek Road, obviously.
Indigo Children.
Yeah, Indigo Children. A tribute to Indigo Children. Yeah. Richard?
That's not Skeptoid. What's going on?
Well, look, there's that very famous incident where Brian Dunning asked, "So, Herb Albert, man or myth?" And I said both.
Now, this is the perfect music. This is our coming into Melbourne music, because at long last, we've only got about 70 kilometres to go of this entire trip.
I was always a big fan of Brian Dunning and the Tijuana Brass. That's Brian on keyboard. Oh, man, he tells it like it is. We're just near... we just came to a place a while back called Dominance. What the hell is Dominance?
I don't know, but it's just outside of Submissive.
I know, yeah, Dominance, and it had the restroom sign, and it looked a bit like, right, okay, that doesn't look like a restroom to me with the word dominance over the top of it.
Hi, this is Dr. Pamela Gay from Astronomy Cast. Each week, Fraser Kane and I take our listeners on a fact-based journey through the cosmos. With our weekly podcast, we explain not just what we know, but how we know what we know about this universe that we share. Check us out at astronomycast.com and look for us in iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you download podcasts. See you online.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
We're here in the Bertie the Beetle Theatre, named after the famous chocolate treat, which I believe the great Sidney Meyer donated to the University of Melbourne, wherever we are. He said, look, here, have this. And it's quite a wonderful place. I'm sitting here with...
Mark Edward. Hi, everybody.
This is going to be your performance space over the next couple of days. How do you feel about it, just seeing it in this stark state?
I love it. It looks like it's going to be a good blackout theater for a seance. So that's what I'm working on, is trying to get... Of course, we'll have to have the exit lights on. There's nothing we can do about that. But I'm still going to go ahead and plan for a little soiree with the spirits.
Well, people said to me, look, he's a mentalist. I thought that's great, getting awareness of psychological conditions. Are you OCD or more ADHD?
I'm OCD, definitely.
Well, you'd need that to be your gig, wouldn't you?
Yeah, with my background in magic, everything is just too perfect sometimes.
There's so much preparation that has to go on. At what point before you walk out onto the stage do you finally let it go and go, okay, I can't do any more about it now?
I pretty much, over the years, I travel really light, and I don't worry about anything.
Oh, okay.
Because it's portable. What I do is portable. The only issue is when you're given 30 minutes, it's going to be kind of like, hi, I'm Mark Edward, and now here's the ghost, you can't tell a really a good story. Usually 50 minutes is about what I do. So I'm going to have to cut 20 minutes out, and that's fine. It'll just be the express seance.
Oh. Well, I have to ask you about that movie that Teller did that was all like a bit of a seance thing on stage that he filmed in New York. Play Dead. Now, is that a good example of the genre?
No, I don't think so, because although Todd Robbins is certainly one of my favorite performers in the world, it was longer. I think it wasn't, they weren't really going for like a Victorian style, which is what I try to do to try and bring back that era. So, I mean, really, if you wanted to have a seance in contemporary terms, you just stand on the stage and make bold statements as if they're facts, But I don't prefer that. I like to have something happen that gets to people a little bit, if I can. So, I'll be in the dark, so to speak, and that's different.
And can you stand the people who talk to the dead for the people and tell them it's real?
No, I can't stand it. That's why I'm here. I mean, the point is that...
is there any of them that you can cut them a bit of slack? But no, none of them.
I cut them a bit of slack in terms of I really like the artifice that they use. In other words, the tricks and the verbal deceptions, and I'm fascinated by that.
Can they do things that you can't?
No, hell no.
Okay.
I can do things that they can't.
Yeah, I thought they might be using some psychological manipulation of them because they're being taken as real, where you go, hey, I'm going to do this stuff for you. Yeah.
Well, but I can be taken as real too if I decide that's a direction I want to go in. I can make somebody cry, but to me, making somebody break down in tears is not entertainment. See, that's the difference.
Yes.
And I'm not out to get a hook in people. I just want them to go, I want wonderment, and then I want skepticism, and basically I want people to think.
Now, you have had people come up to you and go, oh, no, you do have paranormal abilities, you just don't know it. You get that all the time?
Even here, I wouldn't be surprised.
Wow, okay.
Oh, yeah. I there's always, in a crowd of 300, there's going to be a certain percentage of people. They may not actually say that they're a believer, but they'll come up and they'll say, I had a weird experience and this and such and such and such happened. Because what you're doing is you're opening doors in people's minds that normally they don't go to. So even in a skeptical group, you're going to get somebody who has a blind spot somewhere about a house they lived in or something, you know.
I always get nervous around people that are as well good in their art as yourself, and magicians, because I go, wow, these people can manipulate my reality, and it freaks me out a bit.
Well, but that's been the tradition of a magician for centuries. So, you know, it's and nowadays it's science. You know, I teach the kids and people who I work with when I teach magic that all magic is science. And I forget what Arthur C. Clarke said, but if you stay ahead of science that most people don't know about, then that appears as magic. And when we were in New Zealand, I did a thing which skeptics couldn't figure out, and I said it uses science, but this science wasn't available till like 20 years ago. So when you stay ahead of it and you use a scientific principle that nobody's familiar with, it really looks like magic, you know, if you do it right. So
what drew you into this life? When I spoke to Randy, he was talking about the magicians way back, almost vaudeville kind of time. He loved the showbiz thing. What drew you into it? What you thought, wow, this is great?
Well, I think what drew me into magic was, number one, my grandfather was a magician. And so I was his guinea pig when I was a child. When my parents would drop me off for my grandparents to babysit, my grandpa would bring out this box of tricks that he had. So right away I became aware that when somebody shows you something in one hand, what's the other hand doing? And that's really my skeptic beginnings come from that experience of observing and evaluating how spectators respond to the simplest magic trick. If you say it has to do with something supernatural, you have to do very little, but you have to tell a good story. And so that led into seance work. Magic, for me, regular standard magic, it doesn't have any meaning. I mean, you know.
Did you spend a lot of your pocket money as a kid at the magic shop or not?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'd save up every dime. And, you know, I had a bunch of junk for years, you know, because my magic teachers at that point were people just trying to sell me stuff, you know. So that's why over the years I pared down. And as I pared down, mentalism became much more fascinating to me, because with mentalism, the less props you have, the more you're gonna stand out. Now, that's not necessarily true with a Victorian medium. They have certain props that they use.
I was going to ask about this. They have trumpets and horns that stuff had come out of.
But I have to travel light, so I mean, I have
take a trombone with
few things, and that's why I hope everybody will be able to see what's going on and that it works out, because I didn't really bring, you know, all the tambourines and the bells and all of that stuff.
Well, let's get a bit technical here. Has this theatre got good sight lines for a magician show or a seance? Or?
Yeah, I think it'll work. Yeah, it's just that they haven't built the stage yet, so I don't know.
Oh, it's going to go higher than that, is it right?
I think so, because there's going to be panels, so the panels have to be up a little higher for you to see them. So depending on how wide that little strip is going to be, that'll tell me how big a table I can get in there. Because usually I try to do, 12 people and the medium, so it's 13 people at the table, but I don't think that's going to happen here. I think it's going to be me and one person at a tiny little table, which is fine.
I'll have a lot more questions to ask you after I've seen you act later on there, and I'll probably bump into you back and forth in the corridor over the weekend.
Right.
But what is the one skeptical thing that really gets your goat? A lot of people, I mean, obviously you've got a strong feeling for people who pretend it's real,
right.
But skeptically, what's the thing that really go,
That's it. That's the people who Susan Gerbic and I have chosen to sting or go after, who are just outright, blatant criminality of the worst kind. We've seen it, and we know it, and we're tagging it, and we're on to these guys. So, but they still keep working. So,
and they are actually.
I don't know if it's effective or not.
And they're pretty good at their craft, are they generally?
No.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I thought sometimes they might be a bit sloppy.
However, we did go and see somebody who I won't mention, who I really thought was really good.
Okay.
Yeah, he was really good, and he was as smooth as silk, and he had very little hot reading stuff. He was just doing cold reading. And, at the end I said, that guy's good.
And do you think the thing that's dragged them to the dark side is purely money? Or do you think they're genuinely helping people?
Oh, no, it's purely money. Otherwise, they'd be at the police station trying to find missing persons. I mean, really, that's where we always circle back to, If you think you really got it, do something. Don't just sell tickets to it,
It's all right. This is the producer, but again, it's okay. There's a peanut gallery listening to the interview, Maynard.
Well, I think I better let you have a look. And are you going to build a stage up from there? Because we're worried about sight lines. We want to see pants from the back row.
You're not going to see.
There will be a stage, but I'm not sure how high it's going to be.
Depends on the pants.
Well, look, I'll let everything get going here. I hope to talk to you over the weekend. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure. I'll talk to you again. Bye.
Yeah. If you know something, get out there and find some people.
Hey, Maynard.
Hi, how are you? Look, I believe we're on a tram here. Did you touch on, so to speak, or should I not say that?
Oh, I've already done all my touching.
And you've been to the zoo. I believe you've seen some fascinating animals, and I believe one of them, did you see the oriental small-clawed otter or the pygmy hippo, the only hippo that looks like it's wearing a skivvy?
No, I didn't see them at all.
Got to get to see this.
I wanted to see the platypus, but the platypus was too dark, and I couldn't see it, and I missed the firefox. But I did see the meerkats and orangutans, and they were adorable. Oh, the zoo was just really sweet. And I went with one of my GSOW editors, Kelly Eckersley, who brought his 3-year-old little daughter with him. And there's nothing like going to the zoo with a child.
Did you give her a red drink and see what happens? Come on, it's always fun doing that with other people's kids.
No, we sure didn't. We shared a cookie.
Oh, well, there's sugar involved in that. And what would you recommend as someone who's just lumped here in Melbourne as a overseas visitor? What should they be doing?
Well, they should be going and interacting with people on the buses and the trains and everywhere you possibly can, because everybody's so friendly.
We do have certain similarities with America when it comes to that.
People are so nice everywhere we've been, New Zealand and Australia so far. Well, I think that as we're Americans, we can get away with anything. We can say anything, we can be as friendly as we want, and everybody's like, "Aw, those poor Americans."
Well, we know who your president is.
I know.
You can't hide that.
Everybody's so pitiful towards us, and I feel so apologetic.
I know. Well, looks like you're getting him for another 10 years as well.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Bite your tongue.
Look, and have you had any bad experiences having a look at the grief vampires lately? The guys who get upstage and pretend they can talk with the dead. Have you had any bad experiences? Have you been shooed out of a venue lately? Have you been given the bum's rush? Have they wet a broom and chased you out?
No, not yet. That's a really good example. I had one, the one with Operation Pizza Roll. He has just put up a Facebook video just yesterday calling me, I don't know, something really
for
awful.
Everything. He was calling you for everything.
Yeah, he was really upset. He called me a predator or something like that. It was some real great phrase.
Are they suggesting that you might be deceptive, in that you might be fooling people?
He's really upset that I am calling him out on things. He's kind of upset about a lot of things right now.
I'm probably faced with the very difficult task of proving the paranormal. It's a tough one.
Well, it's a dodgy affair. I mean, you really have to sit down and spend a lot of time really trying. It's not something you just walk up and do. There's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of follow-through, and there's a lot of analysis. And, of course, you have to record everything you possibly can, because you need to be able to look to the detail of it. We're on a bus with a bunch of school kids, by the way, everybody.
Oh, yeah, we are. They're just coming back from school, so they're pretty happy. They just want to have a bit of a yak and carry on. The last thing they want to think about is homework until maybe they get home, if then.
Well, I love seeing all the children. It was great seeing them at the zoo. I mean, anytime you can go to a science museum or a zoo or aquarium or of any kind and see children there, it's great to see them interacting and enjoying science.
We'll have a chat with you a bit later, but what is the one scientific thing you learnt today from your journey to the zoo? Well, you learnt that the platypus doesn't like coming out in the daytime because the orangutans throw poo. That's worth something.
Gosh, what did I learn today? There was so many things I learned today. It was just a beautiful day in Melbourne. Everybody keeps apologizing to me for the weather, and I love this weather right now.
Well, yes, it's currently about 1 or 2, and it's only got up to 18 degrees today. That's in the proper scale, Celsius, not the big one the Americans use.
This is about the temperature of my town most of the time, so it's really perfect for me. It's very welcoming. I think they ordered this weather just perfect for me to feel at home.
Well, let's enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and don't get in too much trouble with your co-conspirator over there too. You guys are going to get in trouble while you're here.
Well, we'll try. Nobody should know until we're all done.
That was all me.
Look, I'm in the front window of a restaurant, which is nothing unusual. If any of you have been to Amsterdam, you would have seen me there. But right now I'm in Heidelberg. I'm not Heidelberg, Russia. Not even Heidelberg in, I don't know where the hell it is. We're in Heidelberg, Melbourne, a suburb I've never been to before. A suburb named after, I think, the Colonel Klink's secretary in Hogan's Heroes. And who have we got here? Please tell us who you are and where we are.
Okay, so I'm Les, and I'm from the Heidelberg area, and you're in our family restaurant, Untitled Chapter.
Which is on the corner of what, by the way?
Burgundy Street and Cape Street.
Now, is this a restaurant area? I'm looking around and I don't see restaurants of your type around here.
No, it's pretty much a takeaway or cafe area. So, yeah, unusual. Been here 7 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've obviously had to go through a bit here. And now, as anyone who listens to the show, I can't cook. I know nothing about it. I'm a terrible cook. I only cook for myself because really we don't want anyone else knowing about it. But I've been enjoying what you've been doing here.
My wife is a special cook. I mean, Teresa, she's been doing it for years now, and yeah, it's just like eating at home. If you were to come to my house, that's what you're eating.
Now you say you're a huge fan of the Skeptics, and we've got Skeptic Zone, and we've got Skeptics Guide the Universe sitting over there. Where's the intersection of skepticism and cooking?
I just felt that after all the years of listening to them and how much they've helped change my point of view, and I've come a long way from being way on the other side to critical thinker now, I thought the least I could do was offer a meal at my restaurant and say, hey guys, if you're down this way, I'd love to host you. So that's where it came from.
So how did you start your journey then? How did you even start listening to the show in the first place? I mean, I like listening to all it. Look, I love listening to Skeptic Guide to the Universe and Dark Matter Radio. I listen to the entire gamut of the whole thing. But how did you get to listen to them if you were on the other side?
Yeah, so I actually found it because I was doing a video podcast for my wife when she was first starting out in cooking, right? And I came across their podcast, started listening, and it was at the same time that I was sort of moving away from being a reincarnationist and being a palm reader, and my mother's a neurolinguistic healer and all this sort of stuff, and we certainly don't talk much anymore about this.
Yes, I mean, Christmas dinners, must there be a few things that aren't mentioned?
That's exactly right. So I'm way down another rabbit hole, and I just found that they helped me transition.
All right. Look, you and I, right, because I brought up a couple of issues. First of all, I said, they've just come from New Zealand. I said, isn't there a HAARP array, an experimental HAARP array down at Macquarie Island? They didn't know anything about it, so I was 0 for 1 there. And I went, okay, look, Sam Harris on his podcast recently has been talking about large DMT for psychological experiences and opening up the third eye, and they looked at me like, what's DMT? So I was 2 for 0. The third one I was going to mention was the Vulcan laser that can transmute stuff to turn it into the atomic waste is less radioactive when you use this laser on it. I thought, don't even get that one out of the shed, mate. No, just shut up.
Yeah.
So what did you talk about there? Did you go science or you went cooking?
No, I went a little bit of science with Jay, talking about some of the movies that they talk about on their other show, their Alpha Quadrant show.
But never the one that they haven't had the one you talked about, have they?
No, he hadn't seen that movie. He hadn't seen The Forbin Project.
I have. What's it called?
The Forbin Project.
Yes.
Classic.
Look, I reckon it's where they got the entire idea for Skynet from.
I'm with you. It's still very, very good. So, yeah, we just talked a bit about that, and we were talking about modelling and the guys at Weta Workshop and making the props and that type of thing. So, because I, in my spare time, make models, you know.
And what's your thing the most proud of? What's the one that's hanging or in the man's shed or somewhere in the house where everyone can see it? Have you done a B-17 Flying Fortress half scale? What have you got up to?
No, I actually do seaplanes, World War II, very specific, and in particular Dorniers, so German.
I was going to say, where does skepticism come in running a restaurant? Because you'll get people in here spouting their opinions, which are not based on facts, but then again, if you like something, you like something. If you don't like the taste of something, you don't. So it's kind of hard to say, look, imperially, our food's good, so shut up or leave. You know, you can't do that.
I've learnt to be more diplomatic about those types of things. You know, you have to be. You have to be, because you've got to let people have their opinions, and they're eating the food. They're not here to talk other stuff with us. So, you know.
And what do you think has been one of the great lessons you've been able to take into everyday life from listening to something like Skeptic's Guide to the Universe? So what's the thing about critical thinking that you really think, hey, that is a good thing to know, a good tool for life?
The biggest one for me is listening, and actually listening, like actively listening, not just nodding, saying, yeah, you know, having contact with the eyes.
Otherwise known as Psych Responses 101. I think they're also known as, for people out there that may be studying that at the moment, you've got to actually genuinely listen. Don't just say the last thing they said back to them in a different way.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's the biggest learning, is just listening intently to what people have to say and then digesting it before you try and smack them into a corner about something that you don't agree with.
Look, you can hear everyone having a great time at the table eating the food over there. What's the website for the restaurant where people can go along and have a look, and maybe if they want to try some food, get onto your wife's cooking books there? They
can go to the restaurant is allantico.com.au, so ALLANTICO.com.au. If you do A, you go to the Italian version in Italy.
Okay.
And then her cookbooks are through mangiamanga.com.au, so MANGIA. MANGIA means eat, because as you can see, you know,
you're looking pretty healthy. What do you like as a cook? Because I mean, occasionally she might like to have a night off. So what do you do? What's your specialty dish?
I specialise in the roast and the spit. The Filipino pig on a spit. Yeah,
classic men's stuff to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Men's stuff to the end, but the Italians can't do it. So.
As you can hear, everyone's having a great time, and thank you for being our host tonight. You've been very gracious and a sceptical chef, a sceptical restaurant owner. I've never met one before.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
We're here at the table. Steve, you enjoyed your meal, didn't you, Steve?
Hello, Maynard, yeah.
Yeah, so what was the best part of the meal for you?
Oh, the lasagna, which I had. It was really excellent, really well done.
Yeah.
In a lovely hot dish, good content, good pasta, lovely, beautifully served. Just, I felt very authentic.
Yeah, I got stuck into the gnocchi there and a whole bunch of other things there. Now, Richard, you're one we don't normally go to for culinary commentary here, and as everyone knows, I can't cook, but a nice meal. But both of us are kind of blown away with the fact that how we even got here in the first place.
Yeah, it's really tremendously generous of our host to do this for us. I must say, I had the lasagna too, and it came out it was hot, and the Parmesan cheese was on top, and it melted down into it. I thought, and it tasted delightful. It was just a wonderful evening.
Well, like I said, I was amazed by almost the Swiss cheese of holes that had to arrange to meet a guy who owned a restaurant in Melbourne while they were coming, who was a fan of Skeptic Zone, who was a fan of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, who used to be not so much into the critical thinking, and now is a lot, and was very thankful to the guys and said, come over to have it. Like, that's a pretty small Venn diagram we're getting into there.
And the Swiss cheese is a good analogy. Yes. All the holes have lined up. It's true, yeah.
Well, I think we should just enjoy the rest of the meal.
We will, but you know what? Jay Novella is just opposite us, deeply engaged in conversation with our chef tonight, and he seems to know his way around a kitchen, old Jay Novella. We might get a comment from him.
Yes, he's a meatball man.
He's a meatball man. He's saying, yeah.
And like spaghetti and meatballs, very simple, but it's amazing how often people get it wrong, like I would if I cooked it. I've seen a lot of people have a meal and be very impressed, but I'm talking to a man now who, frankly, you've had a food apotheosis is what's happened to you tonight. You've gone amazingly here. It's almost like you've had some DMT, man. You've been freaked out by this food. Tell us what you've enjoyed, because you're a spaghetti and meatballs man.
Yeah, I mean, I judge a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, by the quality of their red sauce, their meatballs, and the pasta. It's got to be made in the restaurant, and it's a really good formula, because if they get all three of those right, it means that they can get a lot of stuff right in the restaurant. Okay. So, and I'm a meatball man. You know that. I love meatballs. I make the meatballs in my house, and the meatballs here were excellent. Well, you ate here too. You know.
Yeah. So it's like the signifier. It's like if you were Noam Chomsky, the spaghetti and the meatballs would be the signifier of what was going on in the restaurant.
Yeah, that's the heart of the kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we had. So we had the eggplant parmesan. You had gnocchi, right?
Oh, yeah.
How about? I didn't get a chance to try it. How was it?
You wouldn't want to put your fingers anywhere near me while I was eating it.
Yeah, you killed it. You just went for broke.
You can tell I'm a crap cook. I don't get stuff as good as that normally. Yeah.
But everything that hit the table was amazing. Even down to the homemade olives. It was ridiculously good.
Now tell me, you guys are a bit sort of got jet lagged here. Does that affect the palate of the food? Is the food tasting different because you're a bit jet lagged?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm amazingly underslept, everything is in a haze. Like, we got up this morning at 1 a.m. to leave Wellington to come here, and like we had lunch. I don't even remember what we had. We had something, and But yeah, we took a nap before we showed up. I didn't want to be underslept to deal with it, because eating a heavy meal like this, you got to pay attention and enjoy every second of it.
Yes. Look, the coffees are turning up now. But what would you give the meal out of a 10? So come on. Here's your cooking show. It's Jay's cooking show. Here's his score.
Jay's cooking show.
It's cooking with that Jay guy. That's a great name for it. Yeah.
Well, if you're judging just on the quality of the food, you mean this restaurant is a 10 for the authenticity, because it's all homemade and these are real Italians here. So that's one thing. But then the family style and the way that we were treated.
Yes.
We're being treated like family. That's a 10 plus. I know that there's nothing above a 10, but it does make the whole experience so much better.
Just one last question, because you are a bit tired there. What is the intersection between cooking and skepticism very often? Does this happen very often, where you'll be over in the US and someone will go, hey, I've got a restaurant, come on over because your critical thinking changed my life? I don't hear that a lot from chefs. They keep it to themselves.
Maynard, I give the truth like a knife. And I find that most times people can't handle the truth. They don't want to hear me say the food sucked or the meatballs were not good. I didn't have to lie tonight. But interestingly enough, cooking is a very scientific process. It's about chemistry. And my mother-in-law, Courtney's mom, reads Cook's Kitchen or America's Test Kitchen. So I highly recommend anybody that's into cooking to go to so you could get their magazine, and then they have videos online that you could watch, and they treat cooking strictly by science. It's all about the chemistry, and you can learn so much. Like, as an example, I'll give you a quick example. When you cook any meat, you have to dry the meat, completely dry it. You cannot put damp meat, chicken or steak or anything when you're cooking it. If you put it in when it's wet, it's going to steam the meat, and it doesn't cook the outside of the meat properly, which means you're not getting all the flavor out. So there's science in cooking. So if you think about it, skepticism is based on science. Cooking is based on science. God damn it, eating is based on science. Cut that guy off.
Hey, fellow skeptics.
Ben Radford here.
With Celestia Ward.
Your friendly host of Squaring the Strange.
A podcast that looks at topics ranging from legends, panics, and cryptids.
To media myths, psychology, and folklore.
Breaking things down and picking things apart.
As we skeptics do.
We bring a few different perspectives on things.
Celestia, for example, is a witty cartoonist.
And Ben is a brilliant writer and longtime skeptical investigator.
We don't always agree.
But we have fun trying.
And we learn new things.
Join us for new topics every week or two.
Or browse our backlog of evergreen episodes.
Available on iTunes and all your podcast feeding troughs.
Squaring the strange.
Take care, strangers.
Bye-bye.
Hi, my name's Tim Mendham. I'm Executive Officer for Australian Skeptics Inc. and the editor of our magazine, The Skeptic. And today I'll be reading from a section of the magazine we call Them. Also, we call it Reader's Indigestible, which is about all the strange websites and publications that are out there that are worth having a look at and reviewing, if only because some of them are very strange. This particular one is about Earth Movers, Geoengineering, and it's from The Skeptic, September 2018, volume 38, number 3. We call it Earth Movers. If you happen to be in Sydney's Hills District, which is in the northwest of the city, you might have noticed a sign nailed to a telegraph pole beside one of the city's busiest main roads. It boldly announces the destruction of all life on Earth. This might be a bit of a concern if you happen to be stuck in traffic reading the sign. How are you going to get home to the family if you're suddenly taken off to the other place? But you need to be stuck in traffic to read the sign, as it's in such small print that you're likely to cause a major accident if you take your eyes off the road and strain to see what it's all about. And that might cause the end of all life on Earth, or at least that little section of it. It is, of course, all about geoengineering, and the sign points to a website, www.geoengineeringwatch.org, and if you read that lengthy URL as you whiz past, then you're definitely going to cause an accident. But the threats that the sign and the site warn against are no accident. Quoting the site, geoengineering is the artificial modification of Earth's climate systems through two primary ideologies: solar radiation management, SRM, and carbon dioxide removal, CDR. Naturally, this is all the work of the government, and the public are being taken for mugs. Again from the website, how much longer can our government continue to hide the global climate engineering assault in plain sight? How much longer will populations continue to blindly accept the official government narrative of lies and denial in regard to the clearly visible and rationally undeniable ongoing geoengineering operations? How is it possible for the power structure to create and maintain the official denial of fully deployed climate intervention programs? By completely controlling the flow of information, including the weather forecasts themselves. Now, you might have noticed a few logical inconsistencies in this claim. For a start, how can you hide the global climate engineering assault in plain sight? It might be because populations are blind to what is clearly visible. By clearly visible, they mean chemtrails, which involved, quote, jet aircraft spraying of atmospheric aerosol particulates. These elements are then manipulated with powerful ground-based radio frequency microwave transmissions. All good stuff. Available evidence, the site continues, makes clear governments around the globe are cooperating on climate engineering operations due to the cross-border ramifications of geoengineering. The massive military of the US is unarguably the largest participant. So this is big stuff. That last bit gives away that this is an American site, which is impressive that the organisation's reach extends to telegraph poles in outer Sydney. Their fight is based around the Legal Alliance to Stop Geoengineering, which is part of a campaign to get all the incriminating documentation from government agencies, such as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Another player in this campaign is Stop Geoengineering Minnesota. Why Minnesota is anyone's guess, especially as Geoengineering Watch is headquartered in Bella Vista, California. Now, as a strange irony, the sign on the telegraph pole is not that far as the crow flies from the Sydney suburb of Bella Vista. Coincidence? We think not. The website is very busy, generally professional, but with lots and lots of little ads either side of the main text promoting video clips, merchandise, DVD and book. There's only one. Flyer, like the one above, on the telegraph pole, and again, there only seems to be one, which is similar to the sign on the pole, and lots of links to other information. The usual culprits are blasted. HAARP, HAARP, featuring prominently. The High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program was initiated by the US Air Force, the US Navy, the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, evil geoengineering organisations hiding in plain sight, if ever there were some. Other culprits include the, quote, criminals behind the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The government cover-up on what is really going on there is covered in a 3-part article which kicks off with a curious description of Japan as, quote, an exotic exoplanet where the smile-masked, bowing inhabitants speak a nuanced alien tongue, and if you stay long enough and are a respectful gaijin, a dolphin-eyed woman with thick raven hair and the inherited grace of a geisha may show you the secrets of kimono. Okay. There's something decidedly unpleasant about those words, inherently patronising and overtly racist. But logic and restraint are not hallmarks of such sites. For a start, why would anyone want to destroy all life on Earth? Who's left to benefit from such self-destructive action? But that's part of the conspiracy, and thank heavens that Geoengineering Watch is there to keep us alert and worried. But the background of these sites, of the geoengineering movement, is just as interesting as the sites themselves. The person behind Geoengineering Watch is Dane Wigington, who, quote, has a background in solar energy. As his website says, he is a former employee of Bechtel Power Corp and was a licensed contractor in California and Arizona. What the website doesn't say is that his background is as a solar panel installer. So his unstated scientific credentials are just that, unstated and possibly non-existent. Befitting the catastrophic nature of the conspiracies he promotes, he never seems to smile. The photo on the back cover of his book, Geoengineering, A Chronicle of Indictment, is of a man who seems to be very worried and angry. Which is fair emaugh. We are talking about the end of all life on Earth, so you could hardly expect him to have a cheery grin. And he's not alone. One of the oft-cited early promoters of the chemtrail conspiracy was William Thomas, quote, journalist, author, videographer, whose 1999 article, quote, Contrails, Poison from the Sky, connected contrails to chemical spraying, although the article didn't use the term chemtrails. In 2000, a number of US agencies, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Aviation Administration, NASA and NOAA, jointly responded to the claims, attempting to dispel the rumours. Naturally, this was all part of the government cover-up. The EPA refreshed its posting in 2015, indicating that chemtrail conspiracy theories have not dispersed. Haha, little irony there. Now, you have to bear with me here, because we've got a number of names here that cross over in this particular conspiracy world. Richard Lou Fink of Rushville, Ohio, was another pioneer of the chemtrails conspiracy. A bookkeeper and accountant by trade, he also ran his own Christian radio station. An interesting history of the controversy, where participants predate Thomas, can be found in a work in progress by J. Reynolds. This work was begun in 2000, and it doesn't seem to have much that comes after Thomas, so it predates him pretty much. But it does include such people as Bill Brumbaugh, an evangelist whom J. Reynolds thinks was the first to propose that contrails are, quote, other than normal. Brumbaugh told Reynolds that with an associate, Rick Flores, he took a sample of jet fuel in 1996. Reynolds seems to be not that sure that Flores exists, at least under that name, as he regularly puts his name in quotes. Unfortunately, the person Brumbaugh got to analyse his jet fuel sample was Larry Wayne Harris, someone that Brumbaugh describes as, quote, not credible in regard to his statements about the longevity of his employment by the CIA and his claim of being a licensed microbiologist from 1984 to 1993 is false and not even close. He was actually a septic tank and water well inspector, which is his experience in microbiology. During 1997, Harris allied himself with Fink, who at that stage was calling himself Righteous Dude. In April of 1997, Harris was sentenced to probation for wire fraud for his fraudulent ordering of the bubonic plague bacteria Yersinia pestis. Now, this bunch is a mixed bunch indeed. There is an Australian connection to this. One of Thomas's claims was that dozens of residents of Quirindi in Australia swore they saw, quote, cobwebs fall from the sky after unidentified aircraft passed overhead. The local UFO community put that down to angel hair, which is dispersed by alien craft. The same product has been reported at sightings of the Virgin Mary, including in Fatima. So much for government conspiracies. It goes to the very top. Aliens and God are to blame. And that's Earth Movers from the Reader's Indigestible column of The Skeptic, September 2018, Volume 38, Number 3.
The Skeptic Magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics. Every year at the Australian Skeptics Convention, we take great delight in giving out various awards. We like to reward people who we think are doing good for the community, but also we give out the Bent Spoon Award. It's the award nobody really wants to win. Maynard caught up with Tim Mendham to find out about this year's awards.
Well, what was the first big award that went off?
The first big award, of course, is the Bent Spoon Award, which is awarded to the most preposterous piece of paranormal piffle.
And look, there was a lot of finalists. A lot of people had done some silly things. What ones almost got it, you think?
Well, the one that got the dishonourable mention was the National Seniors Group, which is a lobby group for older people, as their name would imply, who also spent their time promoting a very dodgy alternative health product.
Was it one of the copper bracelet ones?
No, it wasn't a copper bracelet. It was actually a supplement, curcumin, which is part of turmeric, and it can be quite dangerous.
Oh, right.
So therefore they were offering this to seniors, which probably is not a great idea.
Oh, okay, right. Well, that's got a dishonourable mention. And who won the big spoon gong?
Okay, drum roll. The big mention went to the SBS Medicine or Myth TV program.
Look, I've been rooting for them because they haven't had one. The ABC's been getting one every time they have a final wiki show. So with the people who got the boot off the ABC show, did they move over to SBS and do something? What happened?
Yeah, they're all very desperate to get the Bent Spoon. Actually, SBS was nominated twice in this particular year, so they've done their job. They've done quite well. But Medicine or Myth, which of course had a panel of 3 people judging some of the weirdest and wackiest things, and the problem was they treated some of them seriously, and they really shouldn't have been treated seriously. There's more hit and myth than Medicine or Myth.
Oh, right. Well, okay, so did they turn up on the night?
No.
Oh, right. Has anyone ever turned up on the night to get their award?
No, because we don't actually tell them they've won until afterwards.
Okay.
No one's ever actually come forward asking for the lovely sort of statue, actually, that we have for the Bent Spoon.
Look, go on the website and have a look at the Bent Spoon. It's pretty fantastic. We brought it down here in Richard's Mystery Mobile.
Absolutely, and I've been watching its progress, actually. It's been very exciting, passing one icon amongst the other icons.
So that was the Bent Spoon that went off. What were the other awards on the night?
Okay, there are the more positive awards. There is a media award, which is for critical journalism, and I don't necessarily mean pro-skeptical journalism, but actually critical approach to these sort of skeptical topics, and that was won by Liam Mannix, who writes for The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. There was also the Thornett Award, which is for the promotion of reason, which is often for someone who's got nothing to do with the skeptical movement at all, but they've just done good stuff, promoting reason, whether it's science or just appropriate activities and things. And that went to a fellow named Guy Nolsh, who was the publisher of a magazine called Australasian Science, which unfortunately closed this year, despite his best efforts to keep it alive. And one of the sad things in Australia is that our science magazines are dropping by the wayside. As I like to point out to people, there's more magazines about hobby railways than there are about science.
We've got 2 left?
We've got 3, I think, actually, if you count a CSIRO one, yeah. I haven't got many. It's rather sad. For a topic like science, which is sort of big, and therefore he won the award almost as much encouragement. And the Media Award and the Thornett Award, apart from a lovely citation, they also get $2,000.
Wow. That's pretty good. And what about, we had some awards to the skeptics themselves. Did we have a life member this year?
We did actually have a life member, and we award that to people who are either on the front line or even behind the scenes, doing good work over a long period of time and actually putting them... Because, the skeptic movement is voluntary, by and large, actually entirely, apart from me. But and people have put a lot of time and effort into working for the skeptics, and we like to recognise them with a life membership. And this year it went to a fellow named Mal Vickers, who gave up his job actually to do some skeptical work and did some re-entered study. He's also doing a lot of work on the chiropractic and alternative medicine areas, and he's done a lot of great work.
Look, I've done talking to him briefly yesterday, and he said he still hasn't quite got published, got that what has been trying to get published, but he's still working on it.
Yeah. He's a very diligent worker.
Yes. Oh, good on you, Mal. Who else?
That's it.
All right.
Did you get one, Maynard?
No. I look. Let me have a look. No, I didn't get one.
I didn't get one either, so there we are.
Look, you might get a life membership shortly before you die.
Actually, I was one of the first ones to get a life membership.
Now, hang on, that's a bit coincidental, isn't it?
Well, I didn't choose it, I must admit. I was actually about the 3rd in line, but I was only 5 at the time.
What's the most controversial night that we've had of these? I've only been to a couple. Was there one where like a bit of biffo went on, someone didn't like what happened? I don't so much mean in the skeptic. I mean, members of the public turn up and they go, hang on, any of that go on?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sort of, as I say, most people, no one's ever actually asked for the actual monument, as you've seen it. But some people have been pretty upset that they've won it. Meryl Dorey of the Australian Vaccination Network was quite defensive when she got it. Paleo Pete Evans, that raised a lot of publicity about it because he's well known. The Chaser did a nice little bit about him winning the Ben Spoon, actually.
Oh, cool.
He thought it was cutlery.
Oh, that's great. Well, look, now you've heard the winners there. You can go along to the website and have a look and see more details about the evening.
Skeptics.com.au.
So get along there and have a look, and if you didn't have a look, well, you've only got yourself to blame.
Absolutely.
Oh, the Patreons would be happy with that show today, Richard. That was packed. It had ups, it had downs, it had love, it had lust, it had adventure, it had quiet moments, it had cats, it had everything.
It had Brian Dunning.
And look, a shout out to everybody who lives in the Yarra Council area, and watch out for roaming cats. As we've discovered, sharing a place there. I had a couch and a backyard I've been living in for the last couple of days, and roaming cats are not allowed in Yarra Council. And a roaming cat is defined as a cat that comes into your yard repeatedly annoying you, and you call the rangers and they take the cat to the lost dogs home, which sounds like a terrible thing to happen to a cat. I don't know what that would, because that's the last place the cat would want to be.
And we have to thank our good friend Dr. Steve Roberts. We're staying with him at the moment. You're staying in the backyard, I know, but I've got an inside room.
I'm keeping an eye out for roaming cats.
You're roaming cats. Coming up on next week's show, lots more from Skepticon 2019. Interviews with lots of your favourite skeptical speakers and just the wonderful people here attending this weekend.
Yep. And I'm going to be going in and talking to a few of them now, which you'll hear on next week's show.
And speaking of Patreons, Maynard, of course, as I do and I know you do on your shows at maynard.com.au, we must thank the Patreons. Without you, we wouldn't be here at all doing this.
Look, I know you would never say this, but as Tim Ferguson and myself say on Planet Maynard, the Patreons are the only listeners that really count, because without them, there wouldn't be any show.
Well, all listeners count, but they count especially, yes. I think, yes.
Yeah. and thank you very much for that. And thank you, my Patreons, because the Patreon money came in on the same day the rent came out. And when that doesn't happen, that's a bad thing.
But you've been releasing podcasts every day for the last week or so, haven't you?
There are 12, count them, 12 better than average Christmas specials dating back to 2009 all the way up to this year. The 2019 ones are cracking, and some Christmas music that people just don't play, and you'll find out why.
All right, well, I think it's time for us to dive once more back into the meet and greet. That's where we're recording from. And, well, for now, this is Richard Maynard signing off from Melbourne, Victoria. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation. I'm with a man who knows something about random numbers. Hello, Steve Roberts.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning. Enjoying your tea and toast?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, it's very good.
Making sure...
Yeah,
that's good, making sure the sound effects are right.
Yes, right.
So, here we go. It's the end of the show. And, yes, you know a lot about random numbers and mathematics and that sort of thing. Yeah. I've got a fair, and you can agree?
Yeah,
it's a fair dice?
A fair 10-sided dice. It's got a pyramid of 5 sides on one side, and you turn it over as a pyramid of 5 sides on the other. So every number, 0 to 9 in fact, every number has exactly the same area on the dice, and the angles are all the same. So it's not a perfectly symmetrical dice, because you haven't got a 10-sided figure that's symmetrical, but it's as good as you can get, and every number gets the same chance of coming up.
Yeah. All right. So those of you playing along at home... Wait for it. He's keen. He's starting to roll the dice already.
We're going to roll it a lot.
Use your predicting power, folks, to guess the first number. Steve's about to roll it. The faces say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But, of course, if it comes up 0, we say it's 10.
We'll say it's 10. Yeah.
So 1 to 10, you've got a 1 in 10 shot for the first roll. And Steve?
Yeah, there it is. It's a 3.
It's a 3, folks. There we are. Yeah. So write that on your card at home. Number 3 is the first number. Now predict again. And Steve? 10.
10.
Ooh. I can't remember 10 coming up much before. Okay, 3 and 10.
Well, you don't roll the dice enough. Okay. There you go. And 3 again.
3. Ooh, there's got to be some code meaning there.
That can happen. You can get 2 3s in a row, for example. And, frankly, if that never happened, you'd think, well, what is going on that you actually never... I mean, there should be a 1 in 10 chance that you get the same number again the next time.
But that doesn't quite work that way.
It does work that way.
Well, in the long run, it does. We could have this conversation for hours.
It's a phenomenon, I know. If you ask people to generate numbers at random or write them down at random, they will not write down 2 the same, one after the other.
It's a giveaway, isn't it?
It's a giveaway.
It's a giveaway, because sometimes 3 3 3 will appear, and then 1 1 1 6 6 6 2. Numbers can do that.
Yeah, that can happen. You can work out exactly how often that should happen, and it doesn't happen as often as it should if people have been interfering with the numbers or made them up themselves.
Yeah, speaks of code rigor. Steve Roberts, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Richard.
Time for some more tea and toast.
Oh, yeah.